This is the Zenvo TSR-S, and it's a little bit like the Eurofighter Typhoon fighter jet because it's got loads of firepower. It's extremely expensive, and it's also got some very clever active aero to keep it stable at high speed. Now in this video I'm going to talk you around the exterior, the interior, talk you through some of its clever features, and yes, I'm going to take it for a drive. And of course, I'm going to launch it to see how quick it is from 0 to 60 miles an hour. Though I am a bit worried because it's a bit rainy today, and this thing could kill me. Anyway, I'm Matt Watson, and you're watching Car Wow. Hopefully not for the last time. Ooh, worried. Let's start this review by talking about the Zenvo's engine. So it's a 5.8 litre twin supercharged V8 that puts out 1,200 horsepower and 1,200 newton meters of torque. Obviously that kind of performance doesn't come cheap, especially not when it's wrapped up in all this carbon fibre. You see, this thing starts from 1.5 million euros, and that's before taxes. Now obviously you want me to launch this car, I'll do it, but later in the video. One of the key features of the Zenvo TSR-S is its design. So it's not only designed to look mean, but its looks serve a purpose because there's so much aero going on. You've got this huge front splitter there, and this big intake there sends the air in there, and then it exits here over the bonnet, and it helps push the nose down for downforce and added grip when you're going very, very quickly, which obviously this car can. Here at the side, there's even more aero going on, and none of the vents are fake. So these vents here are part of smoothing the airflow over the wheels. These vents here release high pressure from the wheel arches. Got these huge side skirts which you've got to be careful not to tread on, otherwise that could be very expensive. These vents here feed air into the intercoolers. This vent here helps feed air into the engine bay, cool the engine, and the scoop on the roof feeds air direct into the engine intake for maximum power. The other things to note at the side are the wheels. 20 at the front, 21 at the rear. You've got centre locking nuts as well, so you can take the wheels off quickly and put them back on again when on a track. Speaking of being on a track, you've got Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 R tyres. Brilliant on a circuit, probably not so good on a road when it's damp and slippery like today. Here at the back you've got these holes here, so you can check how much tread is left on your tyres. Only joking, that is to relieve pressure in the rear wheel arches. You've also got this massive rear diffuser and a flat underfloor for improved aero. Then there's this huge wing. Now I'm going to give you a bit more information on this later, but it can provide 325 kilos of downforce. Now that does affect this car's top speed. You see, you can get a more GT version of this Zenvo. It's called the TS1, and it has a top speed of 240 miles an hour, whereas this track-focused TSR-S, its top speed is 202 miles an hour. Obviously, with a car that can do over 200 miles an hour, you're going to need some pretty good brakes. So you've got carbon ceramics all round as standard. And the people who make these carbon ceramic discs also make them for Koenigsegg and the Aston Martin Valkyrie. They're really good brakes. So you've got 395mm discs up front, you've got 380mm at the back, and both front and back are gripped by 6 piston calipers. Now I'm going to do a brake test from 60 miles an hour, see how long it takes to stop. If all emergencies stop. Now. How long did it take to stop? 33 metres. It's all right. To be fair, again, tyres aren't working well for this. Here on the inside, the TSR-S is made mainly out of carbon fibre, coupled with a bit of Alcantara, and this squidgy material you might find on running shoes. Seats, oh my gosh, these seats. Carbon fibre bucket seats are absolutely glorious. You have 5-point harnesses if you're on track, but thankfully there's also, look, normal seat belts. Handy if you're on the road. Now, wherever you look, you will not find any switches that would be in any other car. You know, it's all bespoke for this. Zenvo has made it all in-house themselves, such as the air vents, the air conditioning system, the gear selector, the window switches, the indicator stalks, the carbon fibre paddles, the steering wheel. Absolutely nuts. Driving position is great. I love it. What's not so great though is rearward visibility. It's like being in a van. Thankfully you do have a rear view mirror that uses a camera feed from the back, so you can see behind you. Oh, I want to show you this, look. Come on. Look at the key. I like the key. I also like the digital driver's display. Once again, all the graphics on there are their own. The only thing that isn't their own is this. You might recognise that. That's an iPad Pro, and it runs their own infotainment system there, so you can play your Spotify and stuff like that through the car stereo. Clever. I don't know why more manufacturers don't just do that. It's like simple, really. So it's also simple, the amount of storage, because there's not much. Basically got this bit here and that bit there, and that's your lot. Thankfully, there is some storage here under the bonnet, so you could fit some bags if you want to go on holiday in this car. Though the front boot isn't quite as big as on a McLaren 765 LT, and if you want to see my full in-depth video review of that car, click on the pop-out button up there or follow the link in the description. Anyway, that brings me on to 5 annoying things about this Zenvo. For a minimalist hypercar that has lots of carbon fibre bodywork, it's a little bit on the heavy side. It weighs over 1.4 tonnes. Now, part of the reason for that is that rather than having a carbon tub, it has a monocoque aluminium and steel chassis. In fact, the chassis actually dates back almost 10 years. The next one will have a carbon tub, but this one doesn't. This car has a single clutch, 7-speed robotised manual gearbox, a little bit like in a Lamborghini Aventador, which is a bit old-fashioned compared to the very latest dual clutch systems. Also, it has dog gears, which just mesh together without any synchro mesh. Brilliant when you're on a racetrack and hard on it, because when you upshift, it's almost instant. However, when you're just manoeuvring at lower speeds and you're going from neutral into drive or drive into reverse, it can take ages for the gears to actually mesh, so you can start moving forwards or backwards very slowly, and you just left floundering, looking a bit silly. These vents here are great for airflow, but they're also good for stone flow as well. You see the stones get picked up by the tyres there and then deposited here, and you're constantly having to clean out this little ledge here of all the bits of grit and stones which have gathered there during your drive. While most of this car is bespoke, there is one obvious bit that it isn't. It's this. Can you tell what car this is from? Can you? Say it lay on. These vents for the engine bay look really cool, but if you leave your car out and it suddenly rains, then you end up with a load of water in your engine bay and a lot of watermarks all over these rather nice carbon fibre air intakes. It's not all negative though. Here's 5 good things about this car. This massive rear wing is mounted to these 2 hydraulic rams, and it can act as an air brake like you get with other hypercars. So you stamp on the brake and it'll do that to slow you down. But also, when you're turning, it acts like an aerofoil. So if you turn to the right, it'll actually bend the wing the opposite direction to push down the side of the car, which would normally be leaning up. And then if you do it the other way, if you turn to the left, it'll do it to the opposite side. And then you can make it dance around all over the place to like show off to your friends. It's kind of like some flight simulator, isn't it? It's nuts. This car has 2 driving modes, and when you start off, it will begin in IQ mode, and what that does is it limits the power if there's any slip to 800 horsepower. However, if you want to, you can press this button here and it'll give you max power, and it'll give you the full 1200 even if the wheels are spinning. Zenvo produce their own carbon fibre in-house, so they can pretty much do what they want with it. So if they want to, they could put any kind of pattern in it. They could even write your name in it if you're that way inclined. On this car, they've decided to make it herringbone pattern, and look at this line, the way it joins up. It's just perfect. It's so symmetrical, even down here. In fact, it runs the full length of the car. That is so pleasing for my OCD. I love it. The Zenvo has these lovely twin exhaust pipes, which are huge. Look, you can fist them. And they're made out of titanium, so you get this lovely blue effect. Plus, when you change gear, they make an incredible banging, popping sound. They even spit flames. Finally, let's talk about the chassis. So this car has double wishbone suspension all round and KW coilovers, which you can adjust 4 different ways. There's also adjustable anti-roll bars at the front and the back, and you can adjust each wheel individually for tow, caster and camber. You've also got an electronically controlled hydraulic rear differential to send the power to the rear wheel with the most grip for better corner exiting traction. Now let's see what this Zenvo is like to drive. I'm going to actually start off testing it in town, see what it's like as a daily driver, because it's quite an extreme looking car. So would it be extreme to live with? Okay, so it's fairly firm, the suspension, but because it's expensive suspension, it's not jarring. So it does just round the edges off of the bumps, but you do feel all the bumps. But it's not massively uncomfortable. The seats are actually really nice. The steering is light and easy. It's a wide car though, and being a left-hand drive, I'm having to be careful not to be too far over the white line. So I've got to get a bit more into the gutter when there's a lorry coming like that. Now if you need to make a manoeuvre, let's see what it's like. Can I do a U-turn in it? Has it got a decent turning circle? Okay, come on, can we make it round? Not sure I'm going to make it round, and visibility is a little bit tricky, but come on, don't curb these wheels, they are very expensive. I can't do that. Ah, there's a truck! Don't, you daft woman! Oh no! Now I've got to get into reverse. You've got to wait for it to engage reverse. Come on! Oh, there we go. much panicking. There we are. So turning circle is quite a lot. Oh, and the gearbox, there we go. Got to wait for it to engage. It's a problem with the dog gearbox. Great when you're on track and you want instant changes, but when you're manoeuvring, it's a bit more of a faff. You have to be a bit patient. The view out the front of this car is actually all right because you've got quite a low bonnet and quite a low dash, so you get a good view forward. The rear view mirrors are pretty decent as well. It's just when you're looking at junctions like that, you can't see past that part, so it's that part behind me. You could daily drive it, you probably won't, but you can easily drive it to a track day, no problem at all. Anyway, enough of this nonsense. Let's go on a twisty road, see what it's like. Oh, the steering is responsive. Yes, it's got hydraulic power steering. Good old hydraulic power steering. So you do feel connected to the front wheels. Interesting thing about this engine is that because it's supercharged and not turbocharged, you don't have a sudden wallop of power, it just builds. So it's actually easy to just drive sedately if you want to, such as when you get caught behind a blooming Hyundai i10. Yay! I'm in my £1 million hypercar, and this is the reality of driving in the UK. They're actually getting well below the speed limit. Be patient, people. You have to be patient, I think, if you've got a hypercar. Unless you get up at the crack of dawn when there's no other traffic about, you're always going to end up in this situation. Come on, that's it. Don't worry, your car won't fall over. It looks like it might, but it won't. Oh, that must have scared the out of her. It's like a gun going off when you change gears. Whoa! 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 This power delivery is so linear. You don't get a wallop in your back like you do with a turbo. It just builds and then whoo, you've got to stay brave. Whoa! It's snaking all over the place. Whoa! Do you know what? It sort of reminds me of a Lotus Exige, but times 10. It's just like nuts. The way you sit in it as well, low, but it's got a really low nose and a low dash, so you get a great view forward. When you're actually on it and changing gears, the gearbox, it's quick. It's just when you're manoeuvring. Can it be sedate on the motorway? I don't know. Here we go. Let's get into 7th gear, top gear. It's not too bad. I mean, I'm having to talk up a bit so you can hear me, because obviously there's not much in the way of soundproofing in this car. But for just tooting on the motorway, it's actually quite nice. Do you know what's really nice? The brakes are lovely. You can really just judge the amount of stopping power. If you buy this car, you can actually spec it with Pilot Sport 4S's, and I think I would probably go for those tyres unless you're just track daying it every time, because they'll just make it more usable every day. Now I'm going to launch this Zenvo. It's supposed to do 0-16 2.9 seconds. I'm not sure I'm going to manage that because I'm on cold Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2R tyres and it's a greasy road. I hope I don't bin it, I'm a bit nervous. Let's try anyway. I'm not going to use launch control because that's just going to spin up the tyres. I'm going to try and modulate the power as best as I can. If I can do it in under 4.5 seconds, I'll be surprised. Here we go. I'm going to just feed the power in. Whoa! Oh! I mean that... I short shifted, it was spinning up its wheels, it was a bit of a mess really, and I still did 0-60 in just over 4.5 seconds. I'd love to try it with warm tyres on a decent bit of road. I reckon it could do 2.9, I reckon it can, but no chance today in my hands. But I'm gonna give it one more go. Oh, that's better, but still so much wheel spin. 4.3 seconds. You know, and it was just wheel spinning pretty much through that. I know what you're thinking. Oh, you can go quicker from 0-60 in a Mercedes AMG A45. But yeah, you can. It's 4-wheel drive and stuff like that. But you need to get the conditions for this car. And today is not the right day, not on these tyres. So then, what's my final verdict on this Zenvo? Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, I reckon if you're a multi-millionaire who wants something a bit unique, you should consider this TSR-S. You see, it's mad looking and it's an extremely rare sight. Only 15 of these will ever be made. However, you really do need ideal conditions to fully exploit its full performance.